Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. Are you looking to better your financial situation by increasing your cash flow? Too busy to hunt for real estate deals or don't know where to start? Then you're in the right spot. Join us as we dive in and talk about investing for cash flow using multifamily real estate.
Welcome to the Cashflow Project podcast. I'm your host, Steve Fieros with Tri-City Equity Group. Today, we're excited. We've got Brett Synicky on the show. Brett is a self-directed IRA solo 401k consultant with Sense Financial. With a professional journey spanning over 18 years in real estate investing, Brett's also a licensed California real estate agent, and his passion lies in empowering people to attain financial independence, affording them the possibility of an early retirement. I can guarantee you, we got more than a handful of listeners that would love to have an early retirement, especially with all the volatility in the marketplace right now. Brett, he lives in Southern California. He's a family man. He's got his two boys and his wife, and he's also a man of faith, just like me. So excited to have Brett on the show. Brett, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the opportunity, Steve.
No, absolutely. I'm glad to have you on the show. We talk a little bit about how we can help our investors, help our listener audience, see how they can maybe purchase some real estate, retire a little early, give some more flexibility in their finances. But kind of before we dive into some of that, give us a little bit of your background. How'd you get started in real estate? How'd you get started in the business? It's not everybody, at least I wasn't thinking, oh man, when I want to grow up, I want to be a solo 401k specialist. I don't know if that was the case for you, but fill us a little bit of how you got started in the business.
Oh man, that whole journey came together quite organically, but I'll lead up to that. So I was a junior in high school and I got a retail job. And I did that for about 15 years. And while I was doing that, even as a young kid, my brother and I were going with my dad to help out at his rental properties for tenant turnover. These are all long-term rentals. This is way before Airbnb was even a thing. And there's turnover, there's work to do. And he loved to put us to work. We didn't necessarily super dig it at the time, but there's value in hindsight. Painting fences, putting new toilets in, you name it, carpet, the whole shebang. And they were local rentals, so we just drive over to them. And we kind of cut our teeth on that part of it as kids. But fast forward to when I had this great W-2 job, I was earning a fair amount of money and it made sense. Now, mind you, this is like 2004 or 5. So it made sense to start buying rental properties. I really wanted to not only reduce my taxable income through depreciation and such, but also I wanted to own real estate. And my dad was an investor, and still is. My grandfather was a buy and hold long-term real estate investor. And so that's kind of what I grew up learning about. And then, so I bought a bunch of properties, buy and hold. I made some mistakes with that for sure, as I'm sure we all do in our investing journey. They were supposed to keep appreciating, first of all. And then 2008-9 happened and they stopped appreciating. They were going to appreciate so much that I was going to 1031 and have babies. And then they were going to 1031 and have more babies. And that was the whole idea through duplication. Well, that obviously didn't happen. I still have my job. By the way, I wouldn't trade any of that, not only for the lessons learned, but through the amount of depreciation that I was able to take advantage of by owning those properties. I paid no taxes on my W-2 income for many years. I had some bonus depreciation on some Gulf zone properties back when Katrina occurred and they rebuilt the area and they called it the Go Zone. And it was amazing. Okay, so then fast forward to like 2014, I cold turkey my retail job, which by the way, I don't recommend people do, but I cold turkey my retail job. My wife's pregnant. I'm studying at home to get my real estate license. Okay. So I get my real estate license in 2014 and people started lining up at my front door just saying, list my house. Would you please help represent me as a buyer? Actually, none of that happened at all. In fact, when you're self-employed, you probably know this, Steve, you got to hustle, you got to grind, you got to reach out to people, you got to pay for advertising, whatever, run open houses. As an agent, I actually, in hindsight, I look back and I'm like, man, I lost the view, or I lost the dream or the vision of why I got my license to begin with. The whole point was to open doors, literally and figuratively. I actually wanted to buy more real estate with my license as a tool to kind of help with that. Of course, claim real estate professional and all that stuff, but I got sucked into the whole retail buyer and seller thing for a long time. I really did. Okay, so in 2014, I got my license. I established a solo 401k with Sense Financial. So now I'm going to tie it all to Sense Financial. So I was a client of Sense Financial, had a solo 401k, rolled over some money. And actually, the idea with that was I was going to use the participant loan option that a solo 401k offers, 50,000 or 50%, whichever is less. And my dad and I were kind of on the hunt for a property that we were going to fix and flip. And I didn't have the cash personally to do it, but I was going to take this loan and we were going to fund the fix and flip, sell it. I was going to pay off the loan and then pocket whatever the difference was, right? Well, just like my idea of having enough appreciation in real estate to have 1031 babies, that didn't happen. We never found a property. I ended up actually scaling my real estate business in a good way. I hired people. Once you have W-2 employees outside of yourself and a spouse and business owners, you actually don't qualify for solo 401k anymore. So I got rid of that. Kind of lost touch with the owner of Sense Financial for several years until, and you mentioned faith, until I went to a men's retreat actually in 2023, got saved, went back to Dimitri, the owner of Sense Financial, who's been a Christian for a long time. And I just shared that with him. And then he's like, hey, dude, you and I should meet up. And so I said, okay. And then he presented this project. He introduced me to this thing that his church was doing, and it was called Project Timothy. And so the idea was that I was going to be his Timothy and he was going to be my Paul. And he offered this discipleship to me, and I said, sure, why not? And so we were meeting once a week, going through these books. There were three of them, actually, like 150 pages each. And we went through that whole thing, and it was about a year or so. And then I'm still selling real estate at this time. And at one meeting, he looked at me and he's like, hey, I've been running this Sense Financial thing since 2010. It's been almost 15 years. I've been the only one doing consultations for Sense Financial over the years. I've been wearing the hat as the business owner. I've been wearing the hat as the lead generation. I've been wearing the hat as the consultant and salesperson. Do you want to come on and help me with that? I'll duplicate myself and you. And now I can, because I really have a lot of stuff I want to do that I haven't had a chance to do because I've been doing consultations primarily, or that on top of everything else. So I said yes. This is in, I think, May of 2024. So no, not May of 2024. No, it was like 18 months ago. November of 2023 is when this happened. And so December of 2022 is when I had first reached back out to him. So not even a year, like 6, 8 months later, he asked me to do this. So that's how I got back involved with Sense Financial. I was a client in 2014, fast forward all the way to then. And I came on as a consultant and I haven't looked back, honestly. And part of the reason I said yes was not only we were aligned spiritually and theologically, but also the writing was on the wall. Real estate was changing. The debt market had changed. Interest rates shot through the roof, and it really got kind of stagnant a little bit for a little while. And I'd never experienced that. My license in 2014 all the way to 2024 or so, when that happened, I never really saw a down market. We had a little blip in COVID, but then it freaking went bananas in like 2021. Everyone made money. Every real estate agent looked like a hero, even though you had no idea what you were doing. But that changed. And I said, hey, you know what, Dimitri? I can work from a home office. I don't have to drive all over God's green earth anymore. I'm in, dude. I'm in. Teach me, train me, and that's what happened. And here I am, man. So I appreciate the question. Sorry for the long-winded answer, but I'm kind of passionate about the journey. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it's so important to understand, like we really just don't have, like, everybody has a story, right? Like everybody that we meet. And I would think this is always important, especially like for our listeners. Like everybody has a story that you meet. So like even the person that's rubbing you the wrong way, let's say in traffic or at the store or whatever, like it's usually coming from somewhere. And the same thing for, like, let's say success. Like we see success and it's like, oh, you know what, man, that person's so successful. I wish I could be them and whatever. But you have no clue. We have no understanding of the background that they've had, the family background, the life experiences that they've had over the years, and what it takes to actually get there. We think it's instant, kind of the instant ramen where it's just like, boom, you hit it the microwave, 60 seconds later, but success is there. And it's like, no, it's oftentimes it's a full journey. And there's so many different things in your, even just you sharing your story where I'm like, gosh, we can break so many of these things down. I actually love that you've experienced the full gambit. I feel like in terms of being on the investor side, going through a market cycle, right? Because like to your point, just like you mentioned earlier, man, everybody, if you just jumped in 2021, oh my goodness, like you just think that this is always the way it's going to be, right? Like
Right.
easy money, this is going to last forever. You don't put anything into a 401k. You don't put anything aside for retirement. You don't buy any property because you think, hey man, the money's just going to come in forever. And it's
Hmm.
like, no, you have to, let's look to the past. Like this is not this way forever. It doesn't stay down forever either. So you got to make some plans there. And two, like even just going back to the very beginning of your story, I love that you're not only was your dad an investor, but your grandfather was an investor. And it's like this is I think about biblical stories, oh, a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. And it's like, well, the inheritance doesn't like we think inheritance in the practical sense of just like, okay, well, I'm gonna leave him a life insurance policy or a bunch of GE stock or Tesla stock today or whatever. But it's like, no, a lot of times it's just a mindset. So it's
Hmm.
those seeds planted of success, of entrepreneurship, of, hey, you can be your own boss. Hey, you do actually own property. You can own property that's not just your home. And I'd be curious to see, like, it sounds like you were learning that, doing stuff with your dad, like painting fences and doing kind of renovations or whatever, like just maintenance items. I'd be curious, like, because I know you have boys. Are you doing the same? Are your kids learning also some parts of the business from you?
Oh man, that's a great question. Oh, I'm not as good at that as my dad was, to be honest. First of all, every rental I ever owned has been out of California.
Gotcha.
So that hadn't been too much of an option for me. I always had third party managers and everything. And so,
When you said
um,
50 grand and going 50-50 on, I was like, is he buying in his own? I don't think so. Like, is he buying in his home market? I'm like, I don't know that he is.
yeah, yeah. Well, actually, and that's part of the acquisition experience too, is back in 2005, six, and seven, you could fog a mirror, you could get a loan. So
Yep.
I got a bunch of 10-year IO interest only loans. And yeah, I would redo a lot of things differently, honestly, if I could go back. But I was only putting like 5% down. So these are 150 to $200,000 properties. And so it didn't take a whole lot to acquire one of those. And when you had a really good W-2 job back then, they would love to give you a loan, right? And anyway, so yeah, lots
No,
changed.
but yeah, no, for sure. And like I said, I love your story because you've been on the back end of that too. Like where it's like, oh, I thought this was going to happen. I thought this was going to be my retirement. I thought I was going to be able to buy more properties, market shift. And so guess what? You shifted also because you switched gears. You went and took a different lane into going into from your W-2 into, let's say, sales, which also opened up doors for you to be now into the position that you are, right? Providing value on for other investors, for home buyers and all that kind of stuff on, let's say, through the retirement accounts and the power of that.
Yes,
So,
sir.
well, we touched real briefly there in the conversation on, let's say, funding sources, because right now that's what I'm seeing. Like, and it's been this way already for the last couple of years. We have seen significantly increased interest rates from even just 2 years ago. And so it's like, okay, well, everybody's waiting on the rates to drop and the Fed to drop and Jay Powell to kind of do his thing and with all the volatility in the market. Well, that may not be an option for a lot of people. And we can't depend on that. So I love the idea that you bring and that you're able to provide to investors and home buyers that, hey, look, take a look around. Like we can take stock of what we have around us and what we have available to us. For a lot of people, that may be a retirement account. So what are some different strategies that they can use? You've thrown out a couple of different terms, the solo 401k and checkbook control and all this kind of stuff. Give me a quick breakdown. Like what are some common tools that you're providing to your people through Sense Financial for them to both on the investor side and maybe to the homeowner side, right? Because it can work on both ways.
It can, yeah, in some ways. We actually have two products and two products only. In fact, that's what I think Dimitri's done a really good job of is the focus thing. There's a lot of shiny objects that he said no to over the years and very wisely so. Let me just say this as a blanket statement because most people don't know this. You can self-direct any type of retirement account, a SEP IRA, even a health savings account, a covered L college savings plan can be self-directed. And I'll define self-directed in a moment. And then, of course, a solo 401k and just a regular IRA, Roth or traditional. I think that pretty much covers it. And so we only do self-directed checkbook IRA and solo 401k. We don't do the HSAs or the SEPs or any other types of plans at Sense Financial. Again, he said no to all those things because they're just a little bit more complicated in this setup period. But so you mentioned home ownership. Yeah, most people get on my calendar because they find out along the way. Oh, let me define self-directed. I'm sorry. Self-directed is taking your investment funds through whatever vehicle it is that I just mentioned and quote unquote self-directing into whatever asset class is allowed by law. So allowed by law is anything except collectibles, life insurance, and an IRA. And then there's certain disqualified parties and prohibited transactions to be aware of. Really, it's easy to just understand that at the end of the day, as long as it's an arm's length transaction, not involving you or your immediate family, it's probably okay. But from a customer support perspective, of course, we want our clients to ask us before they do something they have a question about. But really, the sky's the limit. Real estate, crypto, precious metals, private lending, private equity, and businesses that are not publicly traded. Most people get on my calendar because they're looking to invest their retirement account into non-public assets. SpaceX is a non-public asset. People do self-directed IRAs to invest in SpaceX before it goes IPO with the anticipation that it's going to go crazy. I say be careful of that because I tried to do that with real estate, but whatever, that's a whole nother conversation. It's probably okay. Elon's a stud. Like he's genius when it comes to business for sure. But I digress. There's really almost no limit. S corporation stock is another one because you have to be a person to invest in S corporation stock. Otherwise, you can do whatever you want. When it comes to home ownership, yeah, you can buy a rental property inside your IRA 401k, and your IRA 401k is the owner. It collects the rents. It's the owner, and you're not like commingling your personal funds with that unless you want to take a distribution, which could be penalty and taxes depending on your age, and you're also not benefiting from it. You're not staying at that property. Not while the IRA owns the property. You cannot personally benefit from it, you and your immediate family. If you want to use some of the funds to buy a property for yourself, your primary residence, or even investment for that matter that you want to personally own, really the only option, the cleanest option, I should say, is just taking the participant loan from a solo 401k, which again is up to 50,000 or 50%, and using that for whatever you want, which could be real estate, it could be something else. But there really isn't a good option with the IRA for that.
Gotcha, gotcha. Well, I'm just gonna, well, again, well, you can just kind of hang out there for a minute. So, like, guys, if you didn't just grasp what Brett was talking about there, think about what he was just saying about in terms of, for one, taking control, right? You're gonna have money that goes away every month, and you likely had some from, let's say, a previous job. They were socking it away for you. You have no control. Oh, okay, they take a little portion of my, oh, they do an employee match, right? A company match, right? And it's like, okay, like I've got money that's going away into my retirement account. For the vast majority of people, you don't have any control over that, especially while it's actively being contributed to, right? So they don't think that they can use that, right? I got to wait till I'm like in my 60s, right? Like to be able to tap into that. I just invested in the market. I don't know what happened to that, whatever. It's just been sitting there. And it's like, guys, that's a funding source for you. Because this is a common thing that when I run into people just networking, oh, I'm looking to get started in real estate. I want to buy some property, but man, I don't have $50,000 sitting around like laying in cash in my bank account. Okay, well, hey, take stock. Like, what else do you have that's available to you that's considered an asset? Right? I always encourage people to, hey, you know what? Like, sit down and do a personal financial statement. Like, you start lifting up the cushions in the couch. Like, do you have an old retirement account maybe from a previous job that you forgot about and you occasionally get a statement about? Oh yeah, you know what? I think I do. Look and see how much money's in there. And Brett's giving you the tools exactly to say, hey, well, look, let me self-direct it. You take control over it. And now you can put money into your investing into real estate, long-term rental, short-term rental, syndication, business, joint venture, whatever. Brett was outlining the different types of options that are available to you outside, even crypto. It's like, wow, I can't afford. Well, you weren't thinking about it anyways. Like you weren't thinking about that account anyways. Let's put it to work. So I love that. Thanks for outlining so many different options that they might have that they don't even think about.
Well, and one of the questions people often ask is, what should I invest in?
Mm-hmm.
We're not financial advisors, we're not
Right.
attorneys, we're not CPAs. By the way, this whole call is educational only. So seek out the proper professional if you need such advice, because that's not what this is.
Yep.
But I tell people you should invest in what you know. That's the whole point of self-directing, right? If you know real estate, you should probably invest in real estate. Not only can you control it more, but this is what a lot of people don't think about, even with syndications. There's documentation that I get it. There's no guarantees. I understand that things happen. But at the end of the day, when you invest in debt that's secured by real estate, that is a hard asset that backs up the money. It's like we went off the gold standard in the 70s or whatever, right? Now the dollar is just like this fiat money that there's nothing behind. It's kind of wild that it's actually worth as much as it is. But anyway, I think the same thing about crypto, but that's whatever. The answer is you should invest in what you know. Two people are signing on the dotted line with some kind of agreement. If it's a single family rental, the tenant and you or the property management company or your IRA or you on behalf of your IRA are signing on the dotted line for what the actual payments are going to be. If you invest with Tri-City Equity, there's some private placement documents that you're going to fill out that are there's something in there that's going to indicate the type of return that you can expect. Again, I realize there's no guarantees. It probably says that all over the documentation for disclaimer purposes, but it's a lot more quote unquote guaranteed than just throwing your money in the S&P 500 and seeing what's going to happen. Now, I will say you can look back on the history since its inception and it probably gets about 10%, which is not a bad return over years, but you can crush that in real estate. Absolutely crush it in real estate. And by the way, I'm not advocating owning a rental property in your IRA. I actually think you should do it outside your IRA for tax purposes and possibly inside. I think one of the best ways is private lending or investing in syndication where it's a little more passive. If your IRA owns a property, I mean, there's work involved. If you're a busy W-2 employee, you don't have time to do that, or you're going to use a third-party manager. Private lend, invest in a syndication, let the operators that you trust and know kind of manage that project on your behalf, and then you'll get a return from that money. So I digress, but the point is invest in what you know, and that's the beauty of unlocking your retirement through an IRA that's self-directed or even a solo 401k.
Yeah. No, and a lot of times I think too, people are like, well, yeah, but I'm invested in like an index fund or something like that. And so like I get some diversification if I'm invested in the stock market. And I tell people all the time, man, COVID did an awesome job of showing what a diversified portfolio, even geographically, can do for you. Here in Hawaii, in California, there's multiple states that got just hammered. Like Hawaii got hammered in terms of employment. And it's like, oh my goodness, there's so many jobs that left. The state itself was shut down, like in terms of so many businesses and whatnot. We don't want to talk about being vulnerable as a landlord. There was a lot of protections built in for the tenants. Hey, you don't have to pay rent for the next 6 months. Well, was that being extended to us, the owners, for those 6 months? I don't think so. And so it's like, okay, well, being geographically diversified through our real estate holdings, right, was a huge benefit. And a lot of times a lot of it was through syndications for us personally and also residential and whatnot. But just being operating in states that were growing, that were landlord friendly, right, that were business friendly, that was a huge boon for like our portfolio. And so you can do the same thing through your investment portfolio, where if you are self-directing, you can get geographic diversity, you can get, different types of asset classes, right, versus just being exposed to the stock market. And you mentioned some of the returns there too, right? And I'm not beating up the stock market. I have stock, of course, it's full disclosure. A portion of our portfolio is in technology and disruption and that kind of stuff. I'm a huge Tesla guy, so disclaimer there. But again, I don't have any control over what Elon says or does.
That's right.
Right. And that affects my net worth on any given day. As much as I love his products, it's like, well, hey man, like, and I get it. Like there's people that don't like his politics. Okay, that's totally fine. And so this is a way for you to kind of get away from that. If you don't like it, you can still take control. Go visit Brett and hey, well, what else can we do here? I'm not asking you for financial advice, but just show me some options, right? Yep. And you obviously have a lot of experience having done that.
And there's no fees too. That's the one thing to think about. Like we have a flat establishment fee, and then we have an annual flat custodial fee that starts in year number 2 of $250. Okay, now the establishment fee varies on product, but the flat fee of $250 annually every year, that's it. Like, so if you get 10% from a private loan that you made to an owner or even a syndication, like that money, the whole thing goes back into the checking account for the IRA or 401k. There's no fee off the top. There's nothing. Like you might have a wire fee at $15 incoming from the bank or whatever, but that's it. If you have a 401k through your employer, it's hard to see because they're not super transparent with what the fees are. But I can tell you that employer sponsored group plan 401ks have some of the highest fees of investment kind of vehicles that there is. Outside of like having an actively managed fund with a financial planner, 401ks are probably the highest. And what I would urge people to do, if I may, is if you leave an employer, don't really think carefully before you just roll over that former employer 401k into the new employer plan. I would say open a rollover IRA at Vanguard and just put it in the S&P 500 before you do something like that, because it's just gonna grow. Like that's what the S&P 500 does over the long haul. Okay. Now, I think self-directing it into alternative assets is probably a good idea as well. So I'm not going to shoot myself completely in the foot by saying all that. But at the end of the day, if you roll that money into the new 401k plan, those fees are pretty aggressive. Take advantage of it while you're employed there, but once you leave that employer, like think carefully before you do what you're going to do, right? As far
That's
as the
actually a great piece of advice because I think a lot of people would just blindly do it. And
I
it's like,
do.
well,
I talk
like
to them all the
because
time.
yeah, I was gonna say, and because they're not educated, right? And so like the whole component of the self-directed is like, hey man, I'm gonna do for self. Guess what? The management fees don't go to you. Like you need
Yeah.
to educate yourself on other potential avenues in which you can invest. That's part of why we're having this conversation.
This isn't
It's
an
like,
all or nothing thing. Like you don't self-direct and then not do any stock market. This is an and conversation. That's what it
mhm.
is. I'm sorry to cut you off, Steve.
No, not at all. I just think that that was a good point to reiterate just to our listeners if they didn't catch that. It's like you have options. So like talking to somebody like Brett, even just to have an understanding of like, hey man, I'm looking to move over jobs here. This one's coming to an end, or I'm going to start up this new contract or whatever. Hey, you know what? I should also look at that opportunity and see it as that and say, okay, hey, is there something that I can do that's going to help me to be more proactive with my retirement, knowing that I have money sitting in there? Okay, what are my options? Just as you would look at your options for employment, let's look at the options also for your retirement account because they don't have to always be the same. And that's the thing too, the amount of, we're touching on some of this stuff, the amount of the devaluation, the debasement of the currency is a real thing, guys. If you look at the value of $100 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago versus what it is today, it has lost an incredible amount of value. And this is one of those things where Brett and I would fully agree on this, I'm sure. It's like, hey, you need hard assets and you need to take some control over your financial accounts, your retirement accounts, if you really want to you set yourself up for success in the future. And so we're just trying to help encourage you and show you some different ways that you can do that. Brett is definitely on the nose there in terms of talking about management fees. They will kill your returns. The amount of management fees, especially as your portfolio size grows, that it's robbing your account of compounding and just growing in general. Even just a slight difference, 1 or 2% is a huge deal put out in a long enough timeline. And so I would highly encourage you guys to go look up some different tools. And I'm not sure, Brett, if you have any, but just go search on compounding returns, let's say over a 30, 40, 50 year, and just play with the interest rates. Hey, what does a 10% return look like versus a 9 or an 8, a 7, a 6, so that you can really see what kind of effect those management fees have on your overall retirement
Uh,
value.
Chat GPT is fantastic for those calculations, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. No, use all the AI tools too. You can definitely, hey, what can I do with my retirement account? Ask ChatGPT, ask Grok, ask any of the AI tools, and they're going to give you tons of different options. And then you can talk to somebody like Brett, who, hey, okay, great. It said in there the self-directed is a good way that I can go with my retirement. But okay, well, how do I do that? And so Brett's going to give you some guidance on how to do that right after a nice phone call. And all right, let's explore some options for you. These are stuff that you could do, right? So,
Yes,
well,
sir.
very cool. Well, you know what we've talked about some of the your journeys as both as an investor and obviously helping people through Sense. Do you have any fun stories or like maybe people being able to invest into using any creative products or any creative businesses or anything like that that the people have been able to where like, wow, I didn't even think of that. Like therefore, hey, can I use retirement accounts for something like this?
Oh,
I think the
so
private business one, I like the private. Yeah, I think that's actually really cool because I think a lot of times people
yeah.
were like, "Man, that would be an awesome if I could invest in that," but I don't have any money to do that.
Like I said, the IRS only tells you what you can't invest in. So
Mm,
you can get as creative as you want. I heard about a guy using his Roth IRA to actually, no, I think it was his HSA, not one of our clients. And he was buying cattle with his HSA, and the cattle was having babies. And then they sell these calves to farmers or whoever. And the profit from this was going back into I think it was his Roth actually. Now I can't remember, or maybe he did it with his HSA and his Roth, but the profit's going back into the plan in a tax kind of deferred or tax advantaged account. And so that's super creative and kind of like a fun thing. I don't know if that's something that everybody should participate in, but just something funny. So
No. But I think that's great because I think that highlights what you were saying earlier. Invest in what you know in. If you know cattle, if you're a rancher, if you're a
yes,
farmer, if you're around that kind of stuff, and man, I can just buy 50 more heads of cattle. And for those that are not listening or like have grown up anywhere around that, like it's expensive. Like if you guys ever think about how much you're going to pay for a T-bone or a New York strip at a steak, well, guess what? That comes from somewhere. Okay, so please do not dismiss your average farmer or your rancher. And these are some of the wealthiest guys that you can possibly know. So,
indeed, indeed.
but but if that's your business and hey man, I've got an opportunity to do this. Okay, well, great. Now you have liquidity potentially, right? Now you have a resource, an outlet for that capital that you have. So invest in what you know in, right? If your
Yeah.
opportunity is investing in crypto or other kinds of hard assets, precious metals, or maybe you are in crypto, or maybe you're like, man, this guy's got a brilliant startup. I firmly believe in that. I think that is the wave of the future. Okay, awesome. Well, hey, talk to Brett and see if you can invest into something like that.
You know how many doctors come to us and they say, "Hey, a friend of mine created a product. He's also a
Mm,
doctor. He created a product. I want to be like an angel investor, for lack of a better
mhm.
term, in this startup. I know the product. I know what he's doing. I trust the guy. I've known him for 20 years. He's a colleague of mine. We live by the same oath. And a lot of people, that happens all the time, not 5 times a week, but at least once a quarter, I have a conversation like that with somebody. A dentist, same idea. And so they can get in on the ground floor, so to speak, and use their tax advantaged account to help that company start up. So again, it goes back to invest in what that's the whole point. So,
Absolutely. And in that case, it'd be like invest in what or maybe who you know,
oh,
right? Because
yes,
it's like
exactly. Yeah,
this rock star scientist developed this incredible product, like, and they're going to bring it to the marketplace, but they do need capital to make that happen. Awesome. Like
precisely.
that, like, well, that has an incredible upside.
Yep,
So,
for
well,
sure.
very cool. Oh,
Let me
this,
share real quick. I'm
yeah,
so
yeah, go
sorry.
for it.
Can I?
No. Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
You were asking what people invest in and such. We actually, because all of our plans have what's called checkbook control.
Hmm.
We either bypass the custodian or we eliminate the custodian with the solo 401k. And that's important for a couple of reasons. One, you can have a what I call a basic self-directed IRA where you actually have to go through the custodian for all transactions. The custodian signs all the paperwork. The custodian is on title to everything FBO or for benefit of Joe Smith IRA. We actually bypass the custodian through the use of a special purpose LLC or special purpose trust. So all the assets are now inside that entity that you have full control over. So now you can sign on the dotted line. You can wire money. You can deposit money. You can make decisions, and you still can with the basic plan, the basic self-directed IRA, but the custodian has to pay everything. So if you have, like, God forbid there's some kind of capital call with a syndication or something like that, though it could happen, you have to go through the custodian for that. If that happens, or your property management company needs like to pay for a new front door or something like that, like you have to go through the custodian for all that stuff. So it's a little more laborious red tape per asset, per transaction fees that are involved. With us, everything is flat. So we're not always privy because of this checkbook control. We're not always privy to what our clients are investing in unless they tell us. Like we set up the plan, they come to us with help. We manage the plans from an IRS perspective on an annual basis, but they don't have to come to us every time they want to invest the money. It's a lot more efficient that way. And quite frankly, it's a lot more cost effective. So I just wanted to highlight that difference between Sense Financial and maybe some other providers.
Yeah, that's great. And it's actually really good too, like just in terms of privacy, right? Because or if some people are feeling, oh, hey man, my cousin's got this CBD company that they're going to develop or whatever. It's like, okay, cool. Well, I don't want everybody knowing my business. And so that way you're able to maintain privacy and that kind of deal. And it's like, okay, well, I don't want Brett to know that or whatever. But that's a
Yeah,
great way to just to make sure like, hey, that you're able to maintain, you're truly taking control. And I think that's really something to highlight. It's like you have control versus this is just going to whatever administrator that is allocating my funds somewhere else, and then they're taking all the management fees, and they're the ones making significant amounts of money. It's like, no, hey, this is a way for you to take back control of your retirement account, where your funds are going. This is your hard-earned money, guys. So make sure that you're knowing all your options in terms of where you can put it, where you can direct it. So,
exactly.
Well, very cool. Well, this is the point of our show, Brett, where we transition to something a little bit what we call our fire round, just a little bit more rapid fire Q&A, just a little bit more light and more fun. Is that something you're up for?
Absolutely.
All right, right on. All right, first question. What is the best book that you recommend? For a lot of us real estate investors, this is always like the Purple Bible, like the Rich Dad Poor Dad.
The
But
Purple Bible.
yeah,
I haven't heard
well,
it called
what
that.
what do you have any favorite books that you recommend? It doesn't have to be, it can be anything. It doesn't have to be financial. It can be mindset. It can be parenting, anything. We're always
Oh
looking
man.
for new recommendations.
Oh boy. That's a tough one. I've read so many good books over the years. I love reading, by the way. Okay, aside from the actual Christian Bible, which is obviously the best book in the whole world to read, and if you haven't picked one up in a while, I highly recommend it.
Life advice and financial advice. I think that's something that people overlook. This is like timeless financial advice. I promise you guys. Like,
By the
oh my
way,
goodness, there's so much stuff in there.
people don't know Jesus talks about money more than anything else in the Bible, and it's a huge topic. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
he wants everybody to be rich. It doesn't mean everybody's going to be rich. But
No,
anyway, it's there's
no.
a lot of wisdom in there.
Thank you
So
for pointing it out. You know why he talks, you know why it's talked about so much in the Bible, period?
because the
It's,
love of money is the root of all evil. That's why.
well, not only that, but it's just like he knows that that's always going to be a struggle for people.
Absolutely. Yep.
And
100%.
so it's like, hey, you guys need the most help in this area. So guess
Yep.
what? I'm going to give you a lot of help. Here's a lot of
Yep.
wisdom. Here's a lot of guidance. Don't overlook it.
There's a really good book. There's two of them. One escapes my memory. Okay. The Wealthy Barber is a really good book. If
Hmm,
people haven't listened to that or read it, it's an older one. And then there's another one that's very similar in nature. Oh, The Millionaire Next Door. Both of
there you
those
go.
both of those books are fantastic. Highly recommend it. Yeah. Live below your means. Lifestyle creep is a real thing when you start making more money, and watch out because it can catch up to you.
Absolutely. No, yeah, no, very well aware of that one for
Yeah.
sure. All right, very cool. Yeah, that's a Wealthy Barber. I'll definitely check that one out. And yeah, the Millionaire Next Door is a great book too. Yeah, I would definitely recommend that one. I'll have to check out the Wealthy Barber.
Yeah.
All right, next question. What would you consider your superpower to be?
Mm.
Besides having an awesome beard, because
I got to grow it out more.
we're
But
very into it.
oh man, my superpower. What would my superpower be? My wife would probably disagree with this, but I would say when it comes to clients and colleagues, I can be very patient.
Agree, that is a superpower.
I'm not like that on the road all the time, to be honest with. Anyway, that's all I got.
Yeah, that's valuable though. And because I think that's one of those things. It's like we tend to overlook stuff like that, where it's just like, well, yeah, everybody's patient. And it's like, no, I could guarantee you, no, no. Like, go watch any of these TikTok videos or the reels that people put out, and it's like that. That is definitely a virtue. So, all right, next question. If you had a time machine and you could go back and talk to your 20-year-old self, what advice would you have for him?
Oh boy. Well, obviously God had his plan. I would say I don't I don't think that I could affect his plan any differently than what happened, by the way. But if I could, I would say get right with God when you're 20 instead of when you're like 43. That would probably be my advice. But aside from that, practical advice from a worldly perspective, I guess, I would probably say, gosh, 20. I was doing okay at 20. It was when I got into my mid 20s and later 20s when I started to be a knucklehead. But I'd say buy more real estate. Honestly,
Mm,
that's it. I'd say buy more real estate and buy it differently.
there you go. Well, very good. All right. And then for the busy working professional, somebody who's actually trying to work towards financial freedom, what advice would you have for them?
Hmm. Simply put, live on a monthly budget and have it be a zero-based budget, meaning every
Mm,
dollar has a home, whether it's to save for retirement or tuition or internet or whatever. I would say live on a budget and live below your means. Those two things, which could be further defined, but definitely both those things, I think I would say.
yeah, no, that's huge. Yeah, as soon as you said that, I'm thinking richest man in Babylon. I'm like, oh, and and I just think opportunity costs, because it's like every dollar you spend on a Netflix subscription or whatever has an opportunity cost. It's like, well, that could be growing for you, doing something else.
Bro, it's not just the dollars going to Netflix, it's your freaking brain cells going to
Yes, yeah.
Netflix too. There's so many costs to it. So, and then that's
Oh,
just one
100,
example, but yeah.
100%. I'll throw in this quick anecdotal. This is something that has just stuck with me the last several years. We haven't had a TV for probably easily 6, 7 years, and it's like one of the things that I would always share is, man, if every time let's say every hour I devote to watching TV, a show or something else like that. And I'm not saying you can't do this, guys. I mean, don't take it like that. But if I'm seeing the screen, if I'm on the big screen, I'm watching a show, watching Netflix, I'm watching Game of Thrones or whatever. It's like I'm seeing somebody else's creative vision, somebody else's vision that they had for their life playing out on the screen in front of me. And if your time is so consumed with that, you'll never have any bandwidth to go create your own vision and actually bring it to reality. And so for me, getting rid of a TV, getting rid of the hours that I would commit to any given week watching basketball games or whatever. It's like, hey man, get on the field, go play the game of life, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Go win the financial game. Like commit energy to that. And so yeah, that was always one of those things that we've implemented. And so all right, awesome. Well, Brett, if our audience if they want to reach out to you, they want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Our website, sensefinancial.com. We barely scratch the surface on the way the self-directed accounts work. We barely scratch the surface on really the opportunities that they have behind them. And so I would just check out the website. There's tons of valuable information. If you want to book a consultation, you can do it. But yeah, happy to be a part of this.
No, absolutely. I appreciate you coming on, and really just like you said, we're just scratching the surface of what is possible, right? I know we've personally helped a lot of investors use their IRA funds, self-directed, and all that kind of stuff to invest in real estate. So I can 100% tell you it works, and it is a very powerful tool if you're able to implement it. And I can definitely be the one who can help you out with that. So go check them out, sensefinancial.com. Well, Brett, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I've enjoyed our conversation. And we look forward to circling back with you and connecting with you in the future. If you're ever here in Hawaii, maybe we can record an in-person episode and we can talk a little bit more about some of the different tools and ways that some of our listeners can use their 401ks. And yeah, we'll continue
Steve.
the conversation.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Aloha.
Take care.
All right, great conversation with Brett from Sense Financial. If you guys have questions about IRAs and what you can do with retirement accounts other than just investing into stocks, mutual funds, that kind of stuff, it really is a super powerful tool. And we definitely have helped many, many investors put their funds into much higher growth earning opportunities. Again, none of this is financial advice, but we'd love to have a conversation with you. If that's something we can help you out with, you can go to tricityequity.com. You can schedule a call with me or somebody on the team. We'd love to see how we can help you out. And definitely check out Brett with Sense Financial. Guys, if you're here local to Oahu and you want to connect with other like-minded investors, I can guarantee you your network is your net worth. That's a true statement. So the people that you're connecting with and surrounding yourself with any given day, if you want to level that up, because if you're working your W-2 job, and the vast majority, the high chance that most of those people are not going to be investors and not going to be doing the things that you want to do. So you have to surround yourself with people who are. And so one of the ways that you can do that is with local networking groups. If you're here on Oahu, you want to meet with people on Oahu who are invested in real estate or interested in investing with real estate, join our Facebook group, Honolulu Multifamily and More. We've got a great group that meets up every month, all different levels of experience. So we'd love to see you out. You can find us up on meetup.com, Eventbrite, Bigger Pockets. There's so many different ways you can find us, but search for our group. We'd love to see you in person. Guys, we also have our annual conference coming up, the Hawaii Millionaire Mindset, the Blueprint. The Blueprint is an incredible way for you to be able to develop and grow your wealth, not only for your generation, but for your kids. And so that's something super, super powerful. We talk about business, talk about real estate. It is the hands down best conference that you will find anywhere in Hawaii. So make plans to be there June 19th through the 21st. I will be there. I'd love to meet you. So make sure that you're buying your tickets now. And then guys, if you're finding value in the podcast, make sure that you're sharing with a friend. We'd love a 5-star review. And if you hated it, leave us a 1-star, but leave us a reason why. And we always want to make sure the show better for you guys. Well, that's going to be it for me today, guys. Go out, take some action, and we'll see you on the next one. Aloha.